Hello and welcome to my podcast on the apocalypse. My name is Steve. In my previous podcast, I introduced the book, The Apocalypse Letter by Letter, a literary analysis of the book of Revelation by Stephen Paul. The previous three podcasts centered around chapter 10 of the Apocalypse, where a mighty angel took his stand on the sea and the earth. We identified the angel as Michael, and we looked at the timing of this stand in relation to other events in the Apocalypse. Now we're going to look at more information about the events surrounding that of the second and third woes, their sequence and importance. The chronological question concerning chapters 12 and 13 will be answered first. John wrote, "And they, the dragon and his angels, were not strong, and not a place was found of them still in the heaven. And he was cast out, the dragon, the great one, the serpent, the ancient one, the one called Diabolos, and the Satanas, the one leading astray the whole world. He was cast out unto the earth, and the angels of him with him were cast out." From Apocalypse chapter 12, verses 8 and 9. John described the action of casting out Satan and his angels, demonic and human, from the church in the aorist tense, thus indicating that the event will happen only once. Although Satan and his followers will no longer be still in the heaven, they will still be in the world for a short time, as chapter 12, verse 12 states. The expulsion of Satan from the church will be effected after the event of the 200 million horsemen and before the 3.5-year reign of the beast, the last 3.5 years of the second woe. For John did not record that Satan and his own will have to be cast out of the church again during that period of 42 months. Instead, he recorded that Satan will try to destroy the church from the outside. The text is pellucid of the point that this casting out will be complete and entire. The third woe, which will come swiftly after the second woe, will effect the expulsion of Satan from the whole world. And the text is pellucid of the point that Christ will not have to do that twice either. The emphasis is on the completeness or entirety of Christ's casting out Satan and his angels, first from the church, then from the world. In the past, Christ has not cast out Satan and his followers from his Father's house completely and entirely in any particular judgment. Hence, the judgment in chapter 12 will be unique for its thoroughness. Like Father, like Son, the Father is not a dunce for redundancy, and neither is Jesus Christ. For emphasis and unequivocality, thrice did the meek seer express in chapter 12, verse 9, the aorist tense of the verb ekbalein, to cast out. Plus, he mentioned 5 names or titles for the archenemy of God, and therefore a valid excuse for missing or messing the message is an utter impossibility for any adult in possession of average mind or better. So let the principal point here be committed to fixed remembrance. The war in the heaven will be fought immediately before the reign of the beast begins, and Michael and his angels, angelic and human, shall cast out Satan and his to the earth and the sea, as chapter 12, verse 12 indicates. In chapter 13, verse 5, John wrote, "There was given to it, the beast, authority to do for 42 months. And those 42 months are the short time or little time also mentioned in chapter 12, verse 12. Hence, chapter 13 follows 12 chronologically in the sense of next, quod erat demonstratum." Consider chapter 12, verses 4 and 5, which reads, "And the tail of the dragon, dragged by force, astray, the third of the stars of the heaven, and cast out, ebalen, them unto the earth. And the dragon took his stand, aorist, in the presence of the woman, the one about to bear, so that when she bore, he might devour the thing born of from her, to teknon autis. And she bore aorist a son virile, who was about to shepherd all the nations with an iron rod, and snatched away was, again aorist, the thing born of from her, to teknon autis, to the God and to the throne of him." John recorded the short sequence of activities in the aorist tense, indicating that this sequence will happen only once, just before the war in the heaven. Regarding the dragon, the term "the heaven" here means the church as a visible organization, for obviously the dragon is not in the heaven in the sense of spiritual condition or state. Regarding the stars, the term the heaven in chapter 12, verse 4 signifies mainly the spiritual condition or state necessary for membership in the church, which does not exclude the sense of the church as visible organization. The phrase, the third of the stars, is the same in form as the third of the men in chapter 9, and it conveys the idea of that third of those stars living at that time. Subtle is the statement that the third of the stars was cast unto the earth, for though it plainly tells that those stars lost at the very least the spiritual condition or state for membership in the heaven, it does not necessarily signal that they were cast out of the heaven in the sense of visible organization. To discern here a difference between heaven as visible organization and heaven as condition or state is not to split hairs. Remember in chapter 8, verse 13, in which the eagle flying in mid-heaven directed his 3 cries of woe to the ones dwelling upon the earth, and proximal to the warning were the 4 living beings first, the 24 elders second. The idea of chapter 12, verse 4 is that the dragon, by means of his tail, dragged the stars irresistibly and cast them unto the earth, i.e., to the kingdom of this world, Satan's kingdom, whose capital criterion for membership therein is spiritual condition or state. The stars will still be members of the church according to appearances only. Now, the dragon is Satan, as chapter 12, verse 9 states, and Satan, qua angel, is invisible. But chapter 12, verse 3 states, and there was seen another sign in the heaven, and behold, a great flame fire-colored dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon the heads of it 7 diadems. A sign is something that can be seen by means of physical eyes, since the dragon Satan is most certainly not in the spiritual condition or state for genuine membership in the church. The phrase in the heaven modifying the dragon in chapter 12, verse 3 must mean the visible organization called the church. The terms seen and sign and behold taken together compel the deduction that the dragon is Satan in his political aspect, that the head and tail of the dragon are visible in the heaven, and that therefore the head and tail symbolize human agents who serve Satan. Only the very end of chapter 12 does the dragon symbolize Satan in person. Satan is indeed present throughout the chapter, but for most of it, he is behind the scenes, so to speak. Clearly, the tail of the dragon will be irresistible only to the third of the stars. Conversely, the other 2/3 will be stronger than the tail. Hence, it is the other 2/3 who will prove the stronger in the struggle coming, and they will visibly rid the church of Satan and his agents. And there was not a strong, and not a place was found of them in the heaven, and they were not strong. The third of the stars will succumb to the dragon's tail for only one reason. It will be those stars who are tepid and timid. Bear in mind, in chapter 12, verse 2, the woman was being put to the test, i.e., her spiritual mettle was being measured. Let then 3 major items of information be weighed. Both chapter 11, verses 1 through 3, read like a rod, and chapter 12, verses 4 through 12, and his tail are in the aorist tense. Both passages involve a term that symbolizes a false prophet, reed and tail. Remember Isaiah? Both tell what will happen immediately before the last 42 months of the second woe begin. Since it would be preposterous to propose Christ will conduct 2 complete purgations of his mystical body simultaneously, it stands to reason that the 2 passages are depictions of the same unique sequence of events. Moreover, since the reed and the tail are mentioned in the singular number, and since each is instrumental in measuring the mettle of the church, most especially the woman clothed with the sun, and that measuring is part of the unique sequence of events, it stands to faith that the reed and the tail symbolize only one and the same false prophet in Satan's service. It stands to faith, I say, because at this point it cannot be cogently shown there are not 2 false prophets involved in the same unique operation. To help the reader reason to the conclusion that the reed and the tail represent the same false prophet, John provided the following. And I saw come out of the mouths of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the pseudo-prophet, 3 unclean spirits as frogs, from Apocalypse chapter 16, verse 13. This tells, 1, that the dragon is neither the beast nor the pseudo-prophet. 2, that the beast is neither the dragon nor the pseudo-prophet. 3, that the pseudo-prophet is neither the dragon nor the beast. Henceforth, I will refer to these 3 as dragon or Satan, the beast, and the false prophet. The use of the definite article the with each of the 3 signals to the reader, 1, that each has been previously mentioned, or 2, that each can be identified by conning the text. Now, the dragon presents no problem, for John used the term in chapter 12, verse 3, and identified it in chapter 12, verse 9 as the serpent, etc. Each of the other 2 terms, the beast and the false prophet, does present a problem, for John described 2 beasts in chapter 13, and he did not previously use the term pseudo-prophetess at all. The latter will be treated first. The term pseudo-prophetess has not been previously used. However, 2 symbolic terms for false prophet, namely the reed in chapter 11, verse 1, and the tail in chapter 12, verse 4, have been used, and their meanings were established in the Old Testament. So the Lord severs from Israel head and tail, palm branch and reed in one day. The elder and the noble are the head. The prophet who teaches falsehood is the tail, from Isaiah chapter 9, verses 13 and 14. Since the terms head and tail and palm branch and reed are in opposition, what Isaiah said of the former applies to the latter, respectively. So the definite article modifying the term false prophet in chapter 16, verse 13 cannot be grammatically correct and accurate unless it refers to either the reed or the tail, or to both the reed and the tail, because there is no other term in the text of chapters 10 through 16, verse 2, that per se signifies a false prophet. The very expression of the false prophet indicates that John was referring to the false prophet. But at this point, reason still cannot judge from the evidence that there are not 2 false prophets involved. John clarified the identity of the false prophet even more in the following. And the beast was captured, and with it the false prophet, the one that performed the signs in the presence of it, by which he led astray the ones receiving the mark of the beast and the ones worshiping the image of it, from chapter 19, verse 20. The juxtaposition of that verse and the following excerpt will help confirm the identity of the false prophet. And I saw another beast ascending from the earth, and it had 2 horns like to a little lamb, and spoke as a dragon. And all the authority of the first beast he exercised in the presence of it. And he made the earth and the ones dwelling in it, so that they will be worshiping the beast, the first one, of whom the blow of its death had been healed. And he did great signs, so that he made even fire come down from the sky unto the earth before men, and was leading astray the ones dwelling upon the earth by the signs which were given to him to do in the presence of the beast, telling the ones dwelling upon the earth to make an image to the beast that had the blow of the sword, Machaira, and lived, from Apocalypse chapter 13, verses 11 through 14. From the aforegiven excerpts, 3 deductions can be securely made. The false prophet and the beast descending from the earth is one and the same agent. The false prophet will be the right-hand man of the beast. The term the beast refers to the beast descending from the sea in chapter 13. The order of mention in chapter 16, verse 13, namely the dragon and the beast and the false prophet, can now be explained. It is descendant according to rank, from highest to lowest, as determined by power and authority. Bear in mind that the apocalypse relates only major events and principal persons involved in them, to wit that John did not write about what every Tom, Dick, and Harry would do or say. Hence, notwithstanding that Matthew chapter 24, verse 11 states, many false prophets will arise and will be leading many astray. It is clear that John was concerned about describing only one of them, the principal one, the chief henchman of the beast. Satan and the beast and the false prophet are the fulsome threesome, the 3 most evil antagonists against the operation of the Holy Trinity. Now, therefore, does it stand to reason that the reed in chapter 11, verse 1, and the dragon's tail in chapter 12, verse 4, are one and the same entity, the false prophet, quod erat demonstratum. So attention now turns to that entity whom John designated simply as the beast. Consider these two excerpts. Come, I will show you the judgment of the harlot, the great one, the one seated upon many waters. And he carried me away unto a wilderness in spirit. And I saw a woman seated upon a scarlet beast, covered with blasphemous names, while he was having 7 heads and 10 horns. From Apocalypse chapter 17, verses 1 through 3. And I saw a beast descending from the sea while it was having 10 horns and 7 heads, and upon the horns of it 10 diadems, and upon the heads of it blasphemous names. From Apocalypse chapter 13, verse 1. Note the circumstantial participle ekon in chapter 17, verse 3, like legon in chapter 11, verse 1, and leganta in chapter 9, verse 14. It is the nominative case and functions as both subject and verb for what should be in English a subordinate temporal clause. It is in the masculine gender, despite the fact that it modifies the neuter noun therion, which is beast. And thus, John begins the process of informing the reader that chapter 17 will describe the beast as both a man and a thing, a king and a kingdom. Now look at the participle, ekon, in chapter 13, verse 1. In view of chapter 17, verse 3, it too should be translated as a subordinate temporal clause. The special reason for translating both participles as temporal clauses is that each governs a direct compound object whose order of mention indicates the beast at a specific time in the overall sequence of events. I will comment on this aspect in greater detail later. The important point here is that John's description of the beast is a verbal photograph, so to speak. The beast in chapter 17 has 7 heads and 10 horns, and the beast in chapter 13 has 10 horns and 7 heads, a figure or physique not exactly nondescript. Therefore, are they one and the same, the beast? Aye, the dragon has 7 heads and 10 horns, and if one reflects a moment, one realizes that it too is a beast. The dragon, however, is pyros, flame-colored, or fire-colored, not red as some English versions state, whereas the beast in chapter 17 is kokanon, scarlet. The problem is that John did not tell the color of the beast in chapter 13, and so both faith and reason must prudently dispose of the possibility that the beast in 13 and the one in 17 are twins. A conning of the following 2 excerpts will confirm the identity of the beast. The beast that you saw was and now is and is about to ascend from the abyss and unto destruction is going. Apocalypse chapter 17, verse 8. And the dragon gave to it, the beast, the dragon's power and its throne and great authority, from chapter 13, verse 2. Note that in chapter 17, verse 8, the angel refers to the beast as a thing. Now the juxtaposition of chapter 17, verses 1 and 3 makes it clear that the great harlot is not immediately seated upon the many waters, which term includes the sea, but immediately upon the beast. She is seated upon the many waters indirectly, through him or by means of him. To wit, he is the one seated directly or immediately upon the many waters. The beast then in chapter 17 is the beast in that state or status designated by John of ascending from the sea, and in that time when it is about to ascend from the abyss. The term to ascend means to rise in power and authority, and by using the present participle, John indicated a continuous state or status of being in the ascendancy. In chapter 13, verse 2, John wrote that Satan gave his own personal power and throne and great authority to the beast with 10 heads and 10 horns and 7 heads. It is pellucid that the beast in chapter 13 is no longer ascending only from the sea, but also from the abyss. For the dragon is Satan, and Satan is the king or ruler of the abyss by his natural or inherent power. Mark him in chapter 9, verse 11, which reads, They, the locusts, are having over them a king, the angel of the abyss. A name for him with Hebrew is Abaddon, and in the Greek he has a name, Apollyon. The usual translations for the names Abaddon and Apollyon are destruction and destroyer, respectively, but the more accurate translations for them are annihilation and annihilator. The two names refer to Satan's spiritual condition or state, and to him qua secondary agent, not to his finite being, essence, existence. Since Satan seriously, if not absolutely, rejected God and thereby rendered his own condition or state a permanent deprivation of love, naturally unselfish, he now of necessity acts by means of himself alone and naturally selfish love of his own will, and thus seeks to deceive other rational creatures into choosing the same condition or state for themselves. That is Satan's motive in the act John described. And the dragon gave to it, the beast, its power and throne and great authority. From Apocalypse chapter 13, verse 2. He gave, but he gave only once, and he gave only one person, the beast with 10 heads and 10 horns and 7 heads. The verb edoken, gave, is in the aorist tense. Upon that verb depends all other parts of this argument for identifying the beast. In chapter 17, the beast is ascending from the sea and is about to ascend from the abyss. In chapter 13, the beast is ascending from the sea and is ascending from the abyss. Ergo, they are one and the same beast at two different times in the order of events. Finally, consider the excerpt. And when they, the two witnesses, will be ending the testimony of them, the beast ascending from the abyss will do with them battle and overcome them and kill them. From Apocalypse chapter 11, verse 7. The participial phrase ascending from the abyss patently and plainly denotes that the beast in chapter 11 is also the beast in chapter 13, verse 1, and therefore also the beast in chapter 16, 17, 19, and 20. Quoderat demonstratum. The preceding argument about the beast also shows that the 42 months of his victorious reign and the 42 months during which the nations will be trampling the city, the Holy One, will be one and the same period of time. There will be not 2 periods of 3.5 years each, as some asserted. Indeed, mere common sense understands that the beast and the two witnesses will have to be contemporaneous in order for the beast to kill them. Here, friends, ends the preparation for chapters 17, 12, and 13. However, if you have the feeling of being somewhat disoriented, understand that it has come as a matter of course, the course of an idiosyncratic mind, whose motions, the meanderings of an ant, give visible similitude. However the manner may work on you, it works for me. In fact, were my mind ever to evidence the incipience of system, I would interpret that as a symptom of insidious illness, for a system is a closed thing. Life does have its problems, but my cheerful reminder is that people do not solve many of life's problems, they survive them. Besides, life's quite acquainted with paradox, and ultimately life is the absolute paradox, as every Christian knows. Then comparably, very easy should this commentary prove, whose primary paradox is as the ants, that indirection finds direction out. Sooner or later, the ant partakes of the picnic. In the next section, we will take a deeper dive into chapter 17, which is a key to chapters 12 and 13. You'll see what I mean. Until then, the book is found at apocalypseletterbyletter.com, and a discount code is provided at the top of the page. May the Lord Jesus Christ bless you and keep you.